The Constitution of the United States of America, Blueprint of Our Nation, is our third topic for discussion this year. The Constitutional Convention was a meeting of 55 delegates in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to discuss the future of the United States of America. These delegates were businessmen, lawyers from all over the United States, very different from the all-white farmers that were all over the country and the black slaves living in the South and in the North. So, Ben Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, George Washington were among some of our Revolutionary War heroes that made an appearance at the convention to try to make sure that the United States was on the right path after leaving the Articles of Confederation. There were two big decisions to make during the Constitutional Convention. Which plan to go with? The Virginia Plan, which was a proportional representation plan by James Madison, or the New Jersey Plan, which required each state to have equal representation from William Paterson. Which one was it? The Constitutional Convention was ripe with compromises. The first was the Great Compromise. This was the creation of the bicameral legislature, a two-house system of government. The New Jersey Plan and the Virginia Plan came together to become our Congress. The second was the Three-Fifths Compromise, where slaves would count as three-fifths of a person when it came to taxation and representation. The most confusing part of the Constitution is the Electoral College. States would select electors who would become a part of this Electoral College, and these electors would then come together and elect the President and Vice President. Now today we still use the Electoral College, but it's based off of the popular vote within the states, where then the electorates all cast their vote for the presidential candidate that wins that state's popular vote, thus giving them the electoral votes. Anti-Federalists versus Federalists. There was two different sides to this Constitution argument. The Anti-Federalists thought that there was too much power, and it did not have a Bill of Rights for basic human rights for American citizens, whereas Federalists thought that the country would fail without a strong central government, but did promise the Anti-Federalists, if the Constitution was ratified, that there would be a Bill of Rights added to the Constitution, and that would take place some years later. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Now, when you're reading this and listening to it, I want you to understand how important these words are and what they truly mean. You need to understand each part of this preamble and what is it saying that the Constitution's purpose is in our government and for our people. Checks and balances. Three branches of government created: executive, legislative, judicial. Each branch has a check on one of the other branches. Presidential veto, judicial review for laws. Congress can override a veto with a 2/3 vote over a president. And each of these help keep our government balanced, because without that balance, one branch would become too powerful and may overtake the other two branches. So we need these balances. When you're reading through your textbook, you're going to see the Constitution, and you're going to read through the section on the articles, and you're going to look through the articles in the Constitution. And what you're going to see is how each part of the government's role is outlined in the articles of the Constitution. And then it goes on to expand the roles of the government. So you're going to be responsible for understanding what each of these articles says and what each of these articles says the government can and cannot do to its people. The Bill of Rights. Now we're going to spend a whole class period talking about the Bill of Rights specifically, but we have to touch on it here. The Bill of Rights are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. They are the fundamental rights of American citizens. Now, many of these rights have become interpreted throughout the years, such as right to bear arms, freedom of speech. Can you own a handgun? Can you not own a handgun? Can you say whatever you want? Can you not say whatever you want? That's the debate, and we will discuss that on another day. Now, when you're going through and you're reading your text, you're going to look at this section that talks about the principles of American government. popular sovereignty, limited government, federalism, and separation of powers. You need to know what all 4 of those mean. Be ready to discuss them in class tomorrow. Federal and state powers. Now it's very interesting because our states take their model from our federal system of government. Each state has a constitution. Now there are enumerated powers, powers that the federal government has. Concurrent powers, powers that both the state and federal government have. And then there's reserve powers that are given to the state government. These powers work together and sometimes work against each other depending on types of laws and funding and other things. Last but not least for this section, the living Constitution. Now our Constitution can be changed through laws or through interpretation from the Supreme Court. And this is very important because as time has changed for our people, the laws need to change to reflect that. Whether you agree or disagree with many of the laws that have come into play, if it weren't for that ability for laws to be changed, we might still be living in an agrarian society with 13 colonies on the east coast of the United States. Now, because of a part of the Constitution that states that there is a necessary and proper clause that allows Congress to make laws that the framers of the Constitution were not able to plan for in 1787. I mean, honestly, I don't think George Washington and James Madison were thinking about driving while talking on a cell phone or texting. So the government has the right to make laws that regulate things that were not even in existence 200 years ago. Also, the Supreme Court has the power of judicial review based off of the Marbury versus Madison Supreme Court case that took place under the Jefferson presidency. So in closing, the Constitution is a major part of who we are as Americans. It gives us our rights and our freedoms. It tells our government what it can and cannot do. And as all Americans, we should understand the Constitution so when people are in power of us, whether it be our president, our vice president, our congressman or woman, our state senators, whether it be the Supreme Court, our local representatives, if they are violating the Constitution, that is against the law, because the Constitution is our law of our country. So make sure you read your text, you take down your notes, and you come with questions and be ready to discuss all things that were on this video. Have a great night, and I will see you in class tomorrow. Goodbye.